I can still feel her arms wrapped around my waist as we rode through that night market in Chiang Mai. The warm air, the smell of grilled meat, the sound of her laughter in my ear. "You make me feel safe," she whispered, and I thought this was it. This was what retirement was supposed to feel like. Not just peaceful, but alive. Not just content, but loved. I was 60 years old, recently divorced, and I'd never felt younger. "Where should we go next?" I asked, turning my head slightly to catch her smile. "Anywhere with you," she said, squeezing tighter. I gunned the rented scooter and felt like I was 20 again. I hadn't planned to tell this one. But a few nights ago, I got a message from a longtime viewer of the channel, someone who's been quietly following for over a year. He said, "Your stories help me feel less foolish about falling hard after my divorce. I just wanted to feel young again too." That line, "I just wanted to feel young again," it got to me. Not in an angry way. It hit somewhere deeper. I sat with it. Let it sink in. First came the ache, then the memories. The scooter rides, the market lights, the way she'd lean into me like I was her whole world. And for a while, I believed I was. But that message reminded me, we don't fall because we're stupid. We fall because we're human. Because sometimes all it takes is one soft voice and a little warmth to make us believe we still matter to someone. If this story resonates, or even if you just want to say hi, drop a comment and let me know where you're watching from. Hit like, subscribe, and stick around. We're building something real here. And to everyone who keeps coming back, who sends super thanks, or just quietly listens, thank you. You make this more than a channel. You make it a space where stories like this can breathe. All right, let me take you back to where it all started. After 35 years driving a bus in Detroit, after watching my marriage fall apart, after wondering if I'd spend my golden years alone, here was this beautiful 23-year-old woman who saw something in me worth holding on to. "I'm hungry," she said. "Let's find somtam." I pulled over at a street cart, and as she ordered in rapid Thai, I watched her animated gestures, her genuine excitement over simple papaya salad. This wasn't the cynical world I'd left behind. This was pure joy. "You like spicy?" she asked, grinning. "I like whatever you like," I said, and meant it. She laughed and said something to the vendor that made him smile too. In that moment, surrounded by the chaos and beauty of Thailand, with this incredible woman by my side, I felt like I'd finally found my purpose. Not just a peaceful retirement, but a reason to wake up every morning. A reason to believe that the best part of my life was just beginning. 2 months earlier, I'd stepped off that plane in Bangkok with one suitcase and a plan to live simply off my pension. Detroit was behind me. The divorce papers were signed. I just wanted peace. But I needed a phone that worked. So I wandered into this little shop in Chiang Mai, and there she was, behind the counter, trying to explain prepaid plans to an old German tourist who clearly didn't understand. "Excuse me," I said when he left frustrated. "I need help with a SIM card." She looked up and smiled. Not the fake customer service smile I was used to back home, but something genuine. "You American?" she asked. "Detroit," I said. "Motor City." She lit up. "I know Detroit. My cousin lives there. He says it's very cold." We laughed, and suddenly buying a phone card turned into sharing a Coke, which turned into a walk through the old city, which turned into dinner at a place she recommended. "My name is Tisa," she said over pad Thai, like the singer but spelled different. "I'm Hugh," I said, like the actor, but older and less handsome. She laughed so hard she nearly choked on her noodles. "You're funny," she said. "I like funny men." As we walked back toward my hotel, she told me about her family. Her father was sick, couldn't work anymore. Her mother cleaned houses for tourists. "It's hard sometimes," she said quietly, "but we manage." I felt something twist in my chest. This sweet, hard-working girl struggling while tourists like me threw money around without thinking. "I just want someone honest," I told her as we stopped outside my hotel. "Someone real." She reached for my hand. "I am real," she said. "Maybe too real." I didn't know what that meant then, but I liked the way her fingers felt in mine. "Can I see you tomorrow?" I asked. "I would like that very much," she said, and I went to sleep that night feeling something I hadn't felt in years. Hope. It started small. Her phone bill was past due. Only $30, but she was embarrassed to ask her family for help. Let me, I said. It's nothing. The smile she gave me was worth 100 times that amount. Then her scooter broke down and she couldn't get to work. A used Honda was $800. You don't have to, she said, but her eyes were desperate. I want to, I said, and I meant it. Watching her face light up as she ran her hands over the handlebars, seeing her hug me so tight I could barely breathe, that was everything. You saved my life, she whispered. Now I can keep my job. But it didn't stop there. Her father needed surgery, $1,500. Her little cousin needed school books, $200. Rent for her family's house, $600 a month. Each time she'd get quiet and distant until I asked what was wrong. I don't want to bother you, she'd say. It's not a bother, I'd tell her. This is what people do for each other. She started calling me husband. My husband is so good to me, she'd tell the shopkeepers when we went out. My husband takes care of everyone. I'd never been called anyone's husband with such pride. My ex-wife had said the word like it was a burden, but when Tisa said it, it sounded like a gift. Are you happy? She'd ask me at night, curled up against my chest. Happier than I've ever been, I'd say, and it was true. I was building something. Not just supporting her, but creating a life together, a future where I mattered, where I was needed, where love meant taking care of each other. I want to meet your family, I told her one evening. Soon, she said, when the time is right. I kissed the top of her head and thought about how lucky I was. A year ago, I was eating frozen dinners alone in Detroit. Now I had a woman who called me husband and a family who depended on me. This was what it meant to be a man. This was what it meant to be alive. The first time I questioned anything, Tisa got quiet for 3 days. I'd asked to see the hospital bill for her father's surgery, just out of curiosity. You don't trust me? She'd said, her voice cold in a way I'd never heard before. Of course I trust you. I backtracked immediately. I just wanted to understand. But she'd already turned away. For 3 days, she answered my texts with single words. Busy, tired, working. I felt like I was losing my mind. Roger, an expat I'd met online, invited me for beers. Brother, you need to slow down, he said after I told him how much I'd been spending. 23 is awfully young. Age is just a number, I said, but even as I said it, something felt hollow. And you've known her how long? 4 months. When you know, I insisted. But that night, lying in bed alone while Tisa worked a late shift, I saw her phone light up with messages. Thai messages, coming in fast. I couldn't read them, but the frequency felt urgent, secretive. When I asked her about it the next morning, she shrugged. Just friends from work, she said. We talk about customers. Boring stuff. But she'd turned the phone face down as she said it. Maybe I could learn some Thai, I suggested. Meet your friends. Thai is very difficult, she said quickly. Maybe later. These moments started adding up. The way she'd disappear for hours without explanation. The way she'd change the subject when I asked about her family. The way she'd get that cold look whenever I asked questions. I'm probably just being paranoid, I told Roger over Skype. Divorced guys always are. Or maybe you're finally listening to your gut, he said, but I didn't want to listen to my gut. My gut was telling me things I didn't want to hear. Things that would mean this beautiful life I'd built was an illusion. Things that would mean I was just another lonely old fool getting played by a pretty young girl. So I silenced my gut. I chose to believe her explanations. I chose to trust her tears whenever I got suspicious. I chose to keep the fantasy alive, because the alternative was going back to being nobody, going back to being alone. She was supposed to meet me for dinner at 7. By 8, her phone was going straight to voicemail. By 9, I was walking around the neighborhood, checking the places we usually went. The restaurant where we had our first date, the cafe where she liked to study English, the temple where she'd taught me to pray. Nothing. I sat up all night, imagining car accidents, hospital emergencies, kidnappers. Every sound outside made me jump. Every notification on my phone made my heart race. She walked through the door at 6 in the morning, looking perfect. Hair neat, clothes unwrinkled, makeup still in place. Where were you? I asked, trying to keep the desperation out of my voice. My aunt was very sick, she said without missing a beat. I stayed at the hospital all night. Which hospital? I could have come with you. No need to worry you. She's better now. But there was no tiredness in her eyes. No stress lines from a night spent in uncomfortable hospital chairs. No receipts from a taxi. No smell of antiseptic. No evidence of a crisis. You look good for someone who spent the night at a hospital, I said carefully. Her expression changed. Not guilty, but annoyed. What are you saying? Nothing, You think I lie to you? And just like that, I was the one apologizing. No, of course not. I was just worried. I don't need you to check on me like a child, she said. I can take care of myself. But that wasn't the woman who'd been calling me husband, who'd been taking my money and my care for months. This was someone else, someone harder. Someone who could disappear for 10 hours and reappear without a scratch, with a story that didn't add up and an attitude that made me feel like the problem. I wanted to push harder. I wanted to demand proof. Receipts. Something that would make sense. But I was afraid. Afraid that if I pushed, she'd disappear completely. Afraid that if I demanded the truth, I'd get it. And the truth, I was starting to realize, might destroy everything I thought I knew about us. So I made her coffee instead. I kissed her forehead. I told her I was glad her aunt was okay. And I pretended not to notice that she smelled like cologne I didn't recognize. I opened my banking app on a Tuesday morning and stared at the numbers until they blurred. $43,762. Gone. In 10 months. I scrolled through the transactions, my hands shaking. Western Union transfers. ATM withdrawals. Cash advances. Shopping trips I'd forgotten about. Restaurant bills that seemed impossible. Hotel rooms in cities I'd never visited. The numbers told a story I didn't want to read. Tisa. I called out. She was in the shower, singing something in Thai. We need to talk. She came out wrapped in a towel, water still dripping from her hair. She looked so young, so innocent. What's wrong, baby? I need to understand where all this money went, I said, showing her the phone. She sat down slowly, studying the screen. For a moment, I thought she might cry. Instead, she got angry. You think I steal from you? I'm not saying that. I just need to understand. Every time you offer, every time you say, let me help, I never ask. Her voice was rising. Your father's surgery, your cousin's school. My family needed help. You wanted to help. Now you blame me? She was standing now, towel clutched tight, eyes blazing. You offer to pay for dinner? I don't force you. You offer to buy me presents? I don't force you. You want to help my family? I don't force you. But now, you act like I'm a criminal. $40,000 to Tisa. And how much you spend on your ex-wife. How much you waste on alcohol before you meet me. How much you throw away on stupid things. She was right, and that made it worse. I had offered. Every single time, I'd wanted to be the hero, the provider, the man who could solve all her problems. I never ask you for money, she continued, her voice getting quieter but more dangerous. I never say, give me this or buy me that. You see me sad, you want to help. You see my family struggling, you want to help. That's who you are. Don't blame me for who you are. By the time she was done, I was the one apologizing. You're right, I heard myself saying. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to accuse you. But that night, alone, while she worked another late shift, I stared at those numbers again. $43,000. My entire retirement savings from 35 years of driving bus. Gone. And I still couldn't explain where it went. I still couldn't shake the feeling that I'd been buying something that was never really for sale. I went to surprise her at work on a Thursday afternoon. Brought her favorite mango sticky rice from the vendor down the street. Thought maybe we could grab lunch together. The phone shop was busy, customers everywhere, but I didn't see her behind the counter. I asked her coworker where she was. Tisa? Lunch break, the girl said in broken English, pointing toward the mall's food court. I found her at a corner table, laughing at something on her phone. But she wasn't alone. A Thai guy, maybe 25, was sitting across from her, holding her other hand. They were leaning into each other like lovers do. Like we did. I stood there for maybe 30 seconds, watching them. He said something that made her throw her head back and laugh. The same laugh I thought was just for me. The same laugh I'd fallen in love with 6 months ago. She looked happy, happier than I'd seen her in weeks, more relaxed than she ever seemed with me anymore. I turned around and walked away. Didn't confront them. Didn't make a scene. Just walked back to my apartment and sat on the bed, still holding the bag of mango sticky rice. My phone buzzed around dinner time. Sorry, baby. Working late tonight. Don't wait up. I stared at the message for a long time, then deleted it without responding. She came home after midnight, slipping into bed like nothing had happened. How was work? I asked in the darkness. Boring, she said. Same customers, same problems. Busy day? Very busy. No time even for lunch. I lay there listening to her breathe, feeling like a stranger in my own life. Everything we'd built, everything I'd believed, it was all based on a lie. Not just the money, not just the stories about her family, but this, us. The way she touched me, the way she said my name, the way she called me husband, it was all performance. I was paying for a role in her life, and I didn't even know it. The next morning she was gone before I woke up. Left a note saying she needed time to think. Don't message me for a few days, it said. I need space to figure things out. But I already knew what she was figuring out. She was deciding whether I was still worth the effort. Whether this sad old man from Detroit still had enough money left to make the performance worthwhile. I crumpled up the note and threw it away. Then I sat down and wrote her a text I never sent. I saw you with him, I know. Instead, I just waited. Like a fool, like someone who still believed in miracles. When she finally called, 3 days later, her voice was different, distant, professional. I've been thinking about us, she said, about our future. I felt something like hope stir in my chest. Maybe she'd realized what we had was worth fighting for. Maybe she was ready to be honest. I want us to work, I said immediately. Whatever it takes. My family is in trouble, she said. Real trouble this time. We might lose the farm. Everything. Here it was. The final test. The last chance to prove my love, my commitment, my worth. How much? I asked, and hated myself for asking. $10,000, I know it's a lot, but I don't have $10,000, I said quietly. My savings are gone. Silence on the other end, long enough that I thought she'd hung up. There are ways to get money, she said finally. Loans. Credit cards. To Lisa, I'm already in debt. Then I guess you have to choose, she said. Choose what? If you really love me, if you really want to build a life together. The next day, I walked into a loan office in downtown Chiang Mai. The interest rate was criminal. The terms were impossible. I signed anyway, transferred the money that afternoon and waited for her to call, to thank me, to come home. Instead, I got a text at midnight. Thank you for everything. You're a good man. Please move on. That was it. 48 hours later, when I tried to call, the number was disconnected. Her social media accounts were gone. The phone shop said she'd quit without notice. 10 months of my life. $53,000. All of it vanished like it had never existed. Like I had never existed. I sat in that empty apartment, surrounded by the things I'd bought for us. The extra pillows she liked, the Thai cookbook she'd never used, the framed photo of us at the temple, her arm around my waist, both of us smiling like we had forever. I picked up the photo and stared at her face, looking for signs of deception, for hints of the lie I'd been living. But all I could see was the woman I'd loved. The woman who'd made me feel alive again. The woman who'd called me husband and meant it, even if only for a little while. Even if it was never real. I flew back to Detroit on a Tuesday morning with one suitcase and $37 in my checking account. The loan payments would start next month. The credit card bills were already piling up. At 60 years old, I was starting over with less than nothing. My pension was gone. My savings were gone. My pride was gone. But sitting in that airplane seat, watching Thailand disappear beneath the clouds, I realized something. I wasn't angry anymore. Not at Tisa, not at myself, not at the situation. I was just tired. You got played, old man, the guy next to me said when I told him my story. He was right, but it wasn't that simple. I'd chosen to believe. Every red flag, Every inconsistency, every moment when my gut told me something was wrong, I'd chosen to ignore it, not because I was stupid, but because I'd wanted so badly to matter, to be needed, to be the kind of man who could save someone. She was good, I told him. Really good. They all are, he said. That's the point. Back in Detroit, I rented a studio apartment near the bus station. Got a part-time job at a hardware store to help with the loan payments. Started going to a support group for men who'd been scammed overseas. Turns out there were a lot of us. Lonely divorced guys who'd thought we'd found love in Thailand, the Philippines, Vietnam. All of us broke. All of us older. All of us carrying the same shame. The money's not the worst part, a guy named Frank told the group one night. It's knowing she was never real. That everything you felt was just you, talking to yourself. But that wasn't quite right either. What I'd felt was real. The hope, the joy, the sense of purpose, that had all been real. Tisa had just been the mirror I'd used to see it in myself. The expensive, beautiful, devastating mirror that had shown me I still had something to give, even if I'd given it to the wrong person. Sometimes, late at night in my studio apartment, I still dream about Thailand. The smell of street food, the sound of motorbikes, her laugh in my ear as we rode through the night market. And I don't wake up angry. I wake up grateful. Grateful that for 10 months I'd felt alive. Grateful that someone, even if it was all pretend, had called me husband. Grateful that I'd been brave enough to love completely, even if foolishly. The money's gone, the woman's gone. But what I learned about myself, about my capacity to care and give and hope, that's still here. That's mine to keep. And maybe someday, when the loans are paid off and the shame has faded, I'll find a way to give it to someone who'll keep it safe, someone real this time, someone who'll call me husband and mean it forever.